Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 138 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I hope that your week is going awesome. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. It's not a specific marketing strategy, but I think it's something that is extremely important, and here's why. Any kind of marketing that you can do, once you have that client into your practice, when you can increase the revenue that you generate from that client, or you can decrease the time that it takes to do the administrative work when dealing with that client, that helps you to be more profitable and ultimately allows you to put more resources behind your marketing. And so today we have a guest. We have Dr. Joy Fuhrman, and she's here to talk about Shepherd, which is a cloud-based practice management software, and it is pretty awesome. So we're going to be diving into that and how that can help you to grow your practice without having to do things like raise prices, how you can continue to provide value for your clients and actually convey that value, which is a huge part of marketing, and just a whole bunch of really other great things. Dr. Joy Fuhrman is extremely smart, and she has all kinds of credentials. Not only is she a veterinarian, but she's also a CPA, and she has an MBA, and just is a genius when it comes to veterinary business. So we're very lucky to have her on the podcast. I would like to mention a few things before we begin. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe in iTunes or Google Play. And if you could do me a huge favor, please leave me an honest review. I would really, really appreciate it. I'd also like to mention that this episode is being sponsored by usedvetequipment.com. Go to usedvetequipment.com. It's the website by Brad Haven. It's been online for now over 5 years. And the slogan of Used Vet Equipment is that they bring buyers and sellers together. So if you have any kind of used veterinary equipment in your storage room that you're looking to sell, or if you're looking to buy used and save money, you can go to usedvetequipment.com. They have everything from cages, kennels, x-rays, ultrasounds, surgery and laser equipment, lab equipment from IDEXX or Baxis, tables, tubs, sinks, and all kinds of miscellaneous items. So if you're looking to buy or sell, head on over to usedvetequipment.com. It's kind of like eBay for vets, and the website works really well to set up and connect buyers and sellers, and it does so in a way to protect both of them. You can head on over to usedvetequipment.com, check out the testimonials. There's a bunch there, but if you go to usedvetequipment.com, be sure to let Brad know you heard about it on the podcast. Again, that's usedvetequipment.com. Another thing is, if you would like, I have a Facebook group for people in veterinary marketing. So if you go to Veterinary Marketing Nerds, which is on Facebook, you can either go to veterinarymarketingnerds.com or facebook.com/the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. Or actually, it's facebook.com/groups/the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. All right, so let's jump into today's episode. So as I mentioned, we have Dr. Joy Fuhrman, who is going to be talking to us about the Shepherd app. And it is a pretty cool episode. I think that there's going to be tons of value here. I think that this is something that, as a marketer and working with lots of practices, finding places in the budget to pull from to get ad spend out there, it's like, where are we going to find this from? I have a limited budget. Pretty much everybody that I talk to has a limited marketing budget. And so in today's episode, we talk about where you can find that from without having to raise prices, and just a bunch of really cool aspects when it comes to dealing with the business side. And again, I do marketing in general, and I think this is really important, and that's why I wanted to have them on the podcast to talk to them. All right, so on today's podcast, we have Dr. Joy Fuhrman from Shepherd, a cloud-based practice management software. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I really, really appreciate it.
Good morning, Brandon. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Joy Fuhrman. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations for Shepherd Software. My background is actually in business. I worked as a CPA for many, many years for a Big Five accounting firm. and then decided to go back to vet school where I got my DVM and my MBA. So I have spent years working as a veterinary consultant, and I also practice as an emergency veterinarian. So thank you, Brandon, for having me on your podcast.
No problem. That is a really unique background. I didn't realize that you worked as a CPA as well. That's pretty amazing. Apparently you love going to school. That's a lot of school.
Yes, I think I have more years in school than out of school.
That's amazing. Well, that's really unique. Really, really unique background. I think that makes, first of all, accounting was really difficult for me in college. I don't know why. One of my accounting teachers, I think it was just because there was not necessarily always a right answer. He was like, well, you could do it this way or you could do it this way. And so I didn't know how to think about it, but that's really interesting. So can you tell us how you got started with Shepherd, and maybe a little bit about how Shepherd got started as well? Because I think that's really unique too, and I think that's worth kind of explaining.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shepherd is a brand new cloud-based veterinary practice management platform. It was started out of necessity by Dr. Cindy Barnes, who is one of my vet school classmates and a good friend as well. She owned an emergency practice here in Prescott, Arizona. And when she bought the practice, it came with one practice management software. She paid the company to come out and train the staff, and they still didn't get it. And she paid them again to come out and train the staff, and they still didn't get it. So she tasked her practice manager to find another cloud-based software, which she did, and they tried that out for a while, and that wasn't working either. And she did the most logical thing that anyone would do, right? Decide to go out and build your own new software platform. So she did that. And essentially what makes Shepherd unique is that it's the only software out there that has been designed by veterinarians. So it really flows according to the way that we think as veterinarians. The electronic medical record is really straightforward and simple. There's no training needed. It's that intuitive. It's that easy to use. And it does a great job of managing a practice as well.
Definitely. Well, so that is really awesome. And I didn't know that you knew Dr. Barnes from medical school. That's really, really cool too. So it was designed specifically in use and in a veterinary practice, which is really, really cool. And I think very different and unique because you, I'm sure, see a lot of different uses as an actual practitioner that's designing software versus a software engineer, which I've worked with software engineers and they're difficult to work with because their brains function differently because they're programming stuff all day. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely correct, Brandon. I mean, most of the softwares out there, and I can truly say that I've actually worked in practice on pretty much every software system available on the market. And you're right, they're designed to data mine and to collect data, and they're built by engineers who don't understand how veterinarians use their critical thinking skills. For me, when I work at the emergency practice here in Prescott or using Shepherd, I probably spend about 40% less time writing my medical records on this system than on any of the others out there. So that's a significant time saving, in a profession where we all feel the pressure of not having great work-life balance. And this is just one way to make sure that you get out of the practice on time, get home to your family, and that you're able to leave your work at work and go home without having to a stack of medical records that you need to finish by the end of the night.
Definitely. So the software is cloud-based. That means that it can be accessed anywhere on any device. Is that correct?
That is correct. So, again, if you do want to check up on a patient before you go into the clinic, you can access it from home. You can access it from your tablet, from your phone. I've even been on the plane completing records or just checking on the patients in the clinic and following up on my cases.
Definitely. That's really cool. So I think that there's a few cool applications with that, specifically from a marketing perspective. Is if you want to do, I know that I was seeing recently in some groups that I'm in that the doctors were talking about that they wish that they could do telemedicine, but they don't have the records available remotely because it's all local on their computers. So I guess, do you see that being a huge impact in the future? I think that telemedicine is going to be something that, at least for follow-up care, is going to become standard. I think that in general, human medicine is going that way as well.
Yeah.
And so I think people will get used to it. And then
You're absolutely right. I mean, the veterinary industry has been very slow to embrace telemedicine. And as of now, the AVMA says that a telemedicine platform can be used where a veterinary client-patient relationship has already been established. So for general practices where they do have an ongoing relationship with a client, this is a great way to service patients and service your clients very well without having to actually have them come into the clinic. It's especially good for cats, feline patients, because we all know that owners are really reluctant to bring them in because it's a really stressful event for them. So sometimes that is a great option as well. The other great area that telemedicine can be used for, and I've seen this used very successfully, is although the AVMA does require the VCPR for telemedicine, in the case of an emergency, you are able to use a telemedicine platform without an existing VCPR to give advice to the owner before they bring the patient into the clinic. So I know that every practitioner out there, you get the call from the client and your technician spends time on the phone with them talking about what signs they are seeing, why they need to bring the animal in, and so on and so forth. By using a telemedicine platform, you can then charge the clients for that advice, usually a fairly nominal fee, and you can then apply that to their invoice if they do decide to come in. So there certainly are a number of ways that we can monetize the benefits of telemedicine, even in the absence of a VCPR and certainly within the confines of one as defined by the AVMA.
Definitely. Well, I think that is a really good point, is monetizing kind of what you're probably already doing. Because I know that a lot of practice owners that I talk to and doctors that are working in practice, they're working all the time. And they're typically very accessible. And especially now with Facebook and clients messaging the practice and email, and sometimes vets give out their phone numbers and they text clients and things. You're already doing all of that work. And so...
Right. And you're not charging for it either.
Exactly. And so if you're providing service, it just is a formal way to take monetization for that service that you're providing, which makes so much sense. And having records available anywhere is a lot of flexibility that I think is very powerful for a lot of practices. Definitely. And I think that having that ability too is a differentiation that you can market and sell for your practice, because it's additional convenience for your clients as well, who don't necessarily want to, again, take their cat and bring them into the practice when it's difficult and things. So that makes total sense. And the other thing that I think is really cool that can help with Shepherd is missing charges. And can you talk a little bit about that, because I think that's a huge deal, and I'll talk about why I think it's so important about marketing in just a second. But tell us how Shepherd helps with missing charges and things.
Yeah, so missed charges is a huge issue in our industry. The Veterinary Economics did a survey several years ago, which really showed that on average, practices are missing about $64,000 per doctor per year. Think about that. That's a pretty significant chunk of change. If you're a 2-doctor practice, that's an additional veterinarian you can hire. It's the cost for your new digital x-ray. It may even be bonuses for your staff. But either way, it's additional revenue that could be going to your bottom line. And, just to be clear, missed charges is not clients not accepting your recommendations. It's not discounting. It's not even products walking out the door either by clients or by employees without being charged. What we're talking about here is literally unintentional neglect of getting charges onto your invoice. So not charging client for services that you have actually performed. They've agreed to pay for it, and you have just missed the opportunity to charge them and collect that revenue. So, many people out there say, no, there's no way we miss charges. I certainly encourage everyone to go out and do an audit and compare their medical records to their invoices to try and quantify what it is that they actually did what they're missing. So at the emergency practice here, we did do that and found out that we're losing about $300,000 a year in missed charges, which certainly is a significant chunk of change and was part of the impetus to develop Shepherd. So, if you think about the average vaccine visit where as Fluffy's been taken to the back, the owner says, hey, while she's back there, can you please do a toenail trim? Well, the technician administers the vaccine, does the toenail trim, and whoever it is who's responsible for recording those costs into the invoice forgets or neglects to put that toenail trim onto the invoice. So that $10 toenail trim, if your average client transaction is around $100, that's roughly 10%. So you potentially losing up to 10% of your revenues through missed charges. The reason this happens is, obviously human error. But the biggest issue here is that every single software system out there essentially has a disconnect between the medical record and the invoice. Now, as veterinarians, we are trained to make sure that every drug administered and every treatment provided to an animal is included on the medical record because our licenses depend on that. However, the same is not true of the invoice. And because there is this disconnect between the two, there's this human error or this tendency to make sure that things are in the medical record, but they don't always end up on the invoice as well, meaning that we are missing charges. So Shepherd was designed that there's only a one-step process. You add in products once in the estimate. Those are automatically pushed to your treatment plan. When they are administered, they automatically pushed to your medical record and at the same time directly to your invoice. So bottom line is it's a one-click system. And if it's in the medical record, it's in the invoice. There is no way to disconnect the two of them. To put this into perspective and to apply some numbers to it, in February 2017, Dr. Barnes essentially pulled the plug on her old software system in the emergency clinic and started running Shepherd right away. We immediately saw an increase in revenues of between 13 and 20% per month without changing anything, without adding new doctors, without adding new services, without adding more staff, without adding more equipment. It was simply through the recapture of those mischarges. So, of course, if you were to grow your revenues just all of a sudden by 20%, that's huge profitability for your practice and significant increase in your practice value.
Absolutely. So, there's a few, tons of things to think about in here. $64,000 a year, that per doctor, which is a huge number. Even if it was half that much, it would still be a huge number. So all the time, and if you're listening and you work in a practice, you've probably heard or have said, we just don't have the budget for marketing. Like, we can't do more marketing. It's just not in the budget. Everything's tight, and we're just trying to find stuff. If you found the average amount of mischarges, that's $175 a day extra. And you could market, I don't know hardly any practices that are doing that much in ad spend per day. Like, that, if you applied that to AdWords or if you applied that to Facebook, you could probably, based on what I'm seeing right now for average cost per clicks, if you were targeted and you were doing good work inside of AdWords, for example, that would be potentially probably right around 10 new clients per day that you could add on in additional, just brand new clients coming from search, which is huge. I mean, if you think about that and then extrapolate that, it can just create tremendous growth for your practice. So that's really amazing. It sounds like this is also a huge time saver too, which is something that I think is really, really important because everybody is having such a hard time hiring right now. And so that being the case, everybody's overworked, and that probably makes mischarges even more likely now. So that is amazing. I can't believe that. But even if it was half as much as on average, that'd still be like an extra $90 a day that you could use for advertising or equipment or additional staff or whatever you wanted to use it for.
And there's some additional money savings as well. You mentioned that it's a huge time saving factor. Some of the accounting analysis we've done on our clients who have switched over have shown that they're probably saving about 4% in their staff costs, just because staff aren't staying and after hours in order to finish up medical records. And that's not only the doctors, that's the support staff as well.
That's amazing. I'm sure that people, that's probably the least favorite part of their job is doing the billing and the medical records, just because it's not what you got into the business for. You didn't want to go and fill out charts all day, most likely. So that is really, really awesome. So one thing that I think too is pretty cool here. So not only mischarges, but also missed opportunities to convey value, right? So if you're not putting, like, let's say you wanted to give everybody free nail trims, for example. If you just give it away and you don't mention it and they don't think about it again, it doesn't seem like they actually got anything. Or if you wanted to do discounting, for example, it just, a lot of the softwares, they don't have any way of showing that discount. It just shows the lower price. Can you talk a little bit about how Shepherd does discounting?
Yeah,
because I think
absolutely.
That, like, not only is value actually important, but perceived value. You have to be selling to the client that, hey, you're getting a great deal. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I think in general, the veterinary profession does not do a really good job of conveying perceived value. And, perceived value is such a huge thing because clients would be willing to pay a lot more if they truly see what the value is of the service you're providing. So a lot of the softwares, and we've even had clients ask us, hey, can I just adjust the price in the invoice? And, that's potentially one of the worst things you could do in conveying the value of your service. Instead of, if you do decide to give away a free exam for a new client, for a colleague, whatever your reason is, that's perfectly acceptable. But you should always show on the invoice the exam and the full exam fee, and then below the line show the a discount and that you have discounted the exam. Because again, if your invoice just says exam $0, the client has no real understanding of what it is what is the benefit of what they're getting. So with Shepherd, as I mentioned earlier, there is no way of disconnecting the invoice from the medical record. So if it's charged to the invoice, it will show the full cost of the service being provided. You do have the option to apply a discount, but that really conveys the client what is the value of that service that you are providing to them at a discounted rate.
Exactly. And so if you're doing specials, or if you want to use free exams as lead generation, or that's been one of the biggest things when people say, well, I don't want to advertise for free exams because then I don't want the people that just want free stuff. And so if you come in and it's a one-time thing and you're saying, hey, let me earn your business and show you how much we care about your pet, they come in, they get their exam, and they see that the bill is normally this price, it was this price one time, they're going to feel like they really got value. And typically when people get gifts or when they get something of value for free and they feel like it was a good value, good experience, they're going to have a lot more loyalty towards your practice. And that's really, really important, especially if you're trying to convert new clients into long-term clients. And not only that, but just people who don't want free stuff all the time. Because if you don't provide any context for how much it's worth, there's no way that they can know that they're getting something that's valuable, and also expect how much it can cost next time too. So I think that that's huge. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, if somebody has a practice software, what is kind of the process in getting started with Shepherd, and how does that work from?
Yeah, so converting to a new software, again, for veterinarians, change is a four-letter word. And it certainly is a fairly significant commitment to switch your software and get everyone on your team on board to making that switch. But the actual process is really pretty simple. Once you agree to sign up, we will extract your client and patient information from your existing platform. If you choose, we can also extract all your products and services and your pricing. We then work with you to get that cleaned up, because pretty much everyone has duplications of products or mispricing of products or poor categorization. So we work with you to get that really cleaned up so that you're starting off on a great footing. And then we upload everything up into Shepherd. And this is all done on the back end. So it's done before you kind of switch over. And once all your information is included in your system, then you're ready to go. No one has needed any on-site training because it's so simple and intuitive. We don't need to send people out to your practice for a week to train your staff. Everyone has access to the system. They have their own unique user ID. There's 24/7 online support. We also have a lot of videos and other articles to help you guide your way through the system. But all of that said, our goal in building Shepherd was, when you download an app on your iPhone, nobody comes out and teaches you how to use it. It's just that intuitive. So we keep that in mind with every single module that we add, and we make sure that it's simple, straightforward, easy to navigate, easy to figure out. And we've certainly proved with our existing clientele that is the case.
Very cool. So if they want to get started, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So the best thing to do would be to go to our website, shepherdapp.com, APP, and on there you can see a few videos which will tell you a little bit about what makes Shepherd different. In addition to that, you can sign up for a trial account. And what this is essentially full access to the software. And it'll give you an opportunity to play around in the system and to see how it works and how it flows. Once you've done that, someone from our team will reach out to you. And if you choose, we can certainly set up a full demo for you and for your team. And guide you through any questions you may have as you work through your trial account.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. I think this is something that it probably seems like it would be a big hassle, just in general, changing anything. It's like, oh, I have to change things. But I think that I'm sure you guys have streamlined that process of changing over, and also it just would have such a huge return on the time investment.
Yes, absolutely.
Massive return on time investment. So a little bit upfront will save you a lot of time in records and mischarges and things. So if you've been ever thinking, I wish I had more marketing budget, I wish I had more staff, I wish I had better equipment, I think that this is probably the way to find that revenue so that you can apply it to different places. So thank you so much for joining us today. And again, go to shepherdapp.com to find out more.
Thank you for hosting me this morning, Brandon. Hope you have a wonderful day, everyone.
All right, so I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, comment, needs help with anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me at Facebook. You can go to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com. All of my social icons are there. Send me a message, say what's up, say how, if you need any help, be sure to reach out. And always feel free to reach me on Facebook. One of the best places to reach me and get good engagement is inside of my Facebook group. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/the veterinary marketing nerds. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode and got a lot of value out of it. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.